The galaxy was not quiet. Stars burned in distant corners, casting pale light over planets and moons that had never known life. Among the countless systems, the Andari collective held power. The Andari were an alien race of elegant beings, tall and thin, with luminous skin that reflected their emotions. They were proud, intelligent, and feared across dozens of star systems. Their fleets patrolled the edges of their territory, ready to strike at any sign of rebellion or intrusion. But today, in the council chamber aboard the Andari command ship Luminaris, an unusual report had arrived. A small metallic scout ship had returned from the edge of the galaxy, sending a signal that made even the calmest Andari leaders pause. Adara, one of the elder counselors, studied the holographic display projected before her. "The humans are not where they should be," she said quietly. Her voice carried authority, yet a trace of unease lingered beneath it. The hologram showed tiny points of light moving in precise formations, ships smaller than anything the Andari had built, yet moving with an efficiency that was unnerving. A younger counselor, Vayer, tilted his head. "They are primitive," he said, his tone dripping with confidence. "Their ships are slow, their weapons underpowered. Surely we need not concern ourselves." Adara did not respond immediately. She watched the scout's detailed report, which included unusual patterns of human expansion. The humans were not just exploring. They were thriving in places that even Andari sensors marked as hostile or uninhabitable. Rocky moons with no atmosphere, frozen planets far from their sun, deserts of pure metal. They were turning these worlds into colonies. And not with large fleets or overwhelming power, but with smaller, adaptive teams that seemed to know exactly what to do, no matter the environment. "They adapt too quickly," Adara said at last. Her voice was calm but firm, enough to catch the attention of the entire council. "They do not follow our predictions. Every time we measure their progress, it is faster than expected. And they do so without fear. This is unlike anything I have seen in my lifetime," Vayer scoffed. "Fear? Fear is a weakness, not a requirement. We are more advanced than they are in every measurable way. Our fleets alone could destroy any human presence." Adara turned her gaze to the council. "That is exactly why we must not underestimate them. There are reports from older records, ancient encounters from 1,000 years ago when humans defended themselves against far superior forces. They survived. And they didn't just survive, they turned the tide." A murmur spread through the council chamber. Most counselors ignored the warnings, focusing instead on their confidence in Andari technology. But Adara's words planted a seed of doubt. Just then, the communications panel lit up. A distorted signal appeared on the screen. The voice of the scout captain, slightly trembling, cut through the room. "Counselors, we have observed human activity near the Shara expanse," the captain reported. "Their ships are small in number, yet highly coordinated, and we have detected defensive structures unlike anything we expected. They are preparing for something, but we cannot determine what." The counselors exchanged looks. Vayer's face was hard, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Adara leaned forward. "What do you advise, Captain?" she asked. The scout captain hesitated. "With respect, Counselor, I advise extreme caution. If we attack, they will not simply retreat. They are relentless. Our simulations cannot predict their response accurately. It is as if they anticipate our every move, even when it seems impossible." Vayer's voice rose in disbelief. "Impossible. They are humans, simple, primitive creatures. They cannot possibly outthink an Andari fleet." Adara raised a hand to silence him. "You are speaking from pride, Vayer. Pride is dangerous. I have seen humans in simulation exercises, and I have read reports from our own scouts. These creatures thrive when the odds are against them. Their survival instinct, it is unmatched." One of the counselors, an older Andari named Sareth, spoke in a measured tone. "You suggest we do nothing? That we allow humans to continue without interference?" "No," Adara replied. "I am suggesting we do not attack. Not yet. Observe. Study. We must understand them fully before making any move. If we strike without understanding, we will face consequences we are not prepared for." Vayer shook his head, clearly irritated. "Consequences? They are only humans. We have faced countless species that were stronger than we imagined, and we destroyed them all." Adara turned to him, her expression steady. "Humans are not like other species. They learn quickly, adapt faster, and they never give up. Do you understand what that means?" Vayer did not answer. The room fell silent, filled only with the hum of the ship's systems and the distant glow of the stars outside. The council meeting ended, but Adara stayed behind. She gazed out of the panoramic windows, looking at the dark space dotted with stars. Her mind wandered to the scout report, to the humans building colonies on planets where no life should survive. She thought of their courage, their unity, their refusal to be cowed by threats or overwhelming odds. They are dangerous, she whispered to herself, not because of their weapons or their numbers, but because they do not know fear the way we do, and that is something no simulation can measure. Meanwhile, in a small human outpost on the edge of the Shara expanse, Commander Elena Hart was observing the alien signals they had intercepted. The humans had been monitoring Andari activity for months, cautious but curious. Unlike the Andari, humans relied on ingenuity, teamwork, and intuition. Every colonization effort had taught them to expect the unexpected, to prepare for failure and turn it into success. Commander Hart tapped her tablet, reviewing the latest sensor readings. "They're close," she said to her second-in-command, Lieutenant Raj, "and they're watching. But they don't know what we're capable of." "Not yet," Raj nodded. "Do you really think they'll attack?" he asked. Hart shook her head. "I don't know. But if they do, we won't run. Humans never run. We adapt, we survive. And if necessary, we fight." Back in the Andari fleet, Adara called for a private meeting with the Elder Council members. She projected the human colonies onto a holographic map, showing worlds that should have been impossible to inhabit. "Look at what they have done," she said. "Each colony, each settlement, it defies our expectations. They turn barren worlds into thriving communities. They survive where others perish, and they do so with fewer resources than we would need for one ship." One elder, Kirill, a skeptic like Vayer, frowned. "Perhaps they are lucky. Perhaps they are clever, but luck cannot last forever." Adara shook her head. "This is not luck. This is resilience. This is intelligence, adaptability, and determination. This is why I say, do not attack. If we provoke them, if we underestimate them, we will face consequences we cannot calculate. They do not know fear the way we know fear. And fear is what keeps civilizations predictable. Humans are unpredictable." The council was quiet again, the weight of her words sinking in. The warning had been issued. The Andari would need to choose, ignore it and risk disaster, or heed it, and learn from a species unlike any other in the galaxy. As the Andari fleet prepared to patrol the border of the human expansion, Adara could only hope that her caution would be enough. She knew one thing with certainty. If humanity was provoked, there would be no turning back. They would fight. They would survive, and they would not let any enemy escape, not even the mighty Andari far away. In the darkness of space, the human ships continued their work, unaware that their actions had already sent ripples through the galaxy. The stars themselves seemed to watch, waiting to see how the first meeting of these two very different species would unfold. Adara turned from the window and addressed her aides. "Prepare our fleets. Observe them carefully. Learn everything we can. And remember, do not attack, not yet. The humans are coming, whether we expect them or not. And when they meet us, they will change everything." The Andari elders left the chamber with unease in their hearts. Pride had always guided them, but now uncertainty lingered. Humanity was small, fragile, and limited by appearances, but the elder counselor Adara had seen what mattered most. Humanity's greatest weapon was their spirit. And that was something no starship, no weapon, and no alien intelligence could ever truly measure. The warning had been given. The galaxy waited. The humans had been exploring the edge of the Shara expanse for months. Small ships moved in careful formations, scanning planets, mapping asteroid fields, and sending data back to Earth. Their mission was peaceful: exploration, research, and preparation for possible trade. But the Andari had begun to notice them. On the bridge of the human command ship Horizon Dawn, Commander Elena Hart stared at the holographic display showing several approaching alien ships. "They've found us," she said calmly, her fingers tapping across the console. The ships were large, sleek, and glowing faintly in the darkness of space. Their designs were elegant but clearly made for war. Lieutenant Raj, standing beside her, frowned. "They're so big and fast. Do we have any chance if they attack?" Hart shook her head slightly. "They might have more firepower, but firepower alone doesn't win battles. We adapt, we improvise. Remember, they don't know us yet. The human fleet held position, showing no signs of hostility. The humans broadcast a simple message, a universal greeting signal, one designed to show peace and curiosity. The message traveled across the vacuum of space toward the alien ships, a gentle pulse of light and sound meant to communicate that they came in peace. The Andari fleet paused. Captain Veyer's ship, the Luminaris, received the message, and he frowned. They are sending a greeting? Ridiculous. They should know their place. Adara, standing behind him, placed a hand on his arm. Do not underestimate them. A greeting does not mean weakness. Observe carefully before you act. The humans watched the alien ships approach. Despite the difference in size and technology, there was no fear in the human eyes, only curiosity and readiness. They prepared their defenses but kept weapons on low power, ready to respond only if necessary. A small Andari scout vessel moved ahead of the main fleet. It hovered near the human ships, scanning them. The aliens were surprised. Humans were smaller and less powerful in conventional technology, but they had shields that adapted to energy blasts, engines that could change direction in ways the Andari did not expect, and sensors that detected even the slightest movement. The scout transmitted back to the Luminaries. Counselor Adara, the captain of the scouts, said over the comms, "These humans are not as primitive as we believed. They are efficient. Their coordination is remarkable for such small vessels." Veyer scowled. "Small or not, they will submit if we press them." Adara shook her head. "Or they may surprise us. Observe, but do not engage yet." The humans continued their exploration, unaware of the tension in the alien fleet. They had settled near a small moon with a thin atmosphere, rich in minerals. The human engineers deployed small drones to study the surface and collect samples. The Andari, hidden in the shadows of a nearby asteroid field, watched silently. Suddenly, a miscommunication within the Andari fleet caused a ship to fire a warning shot, a beam of energy that barely missed a human vessel. Alarms blared on the human ships, and crews scrambled to defend themselves. The human fleet immediately formed a defensive formation, not aggressive, but ready to protect their own. Hart's eyes narrowed as she analyzed the situation. "They made a mistake," she said. "But we won't panic. Remember, we fight smart, not just with weapons." Using a clever maneuver, the humans divided their fleet into small groups, creating the illusion of retreat. One ship, the Aurora Sentinel, zipped around the edge of the Andari fleet, appearing to flee while secretly sending false signals to confuse the enemy sensors. The Andari pursued, believing they had the advantage, only to find themselves caught in a carefully planned trap. The human fleet's ships moved through a nearby asteroid belt, weaving between massive rocks with surprising speed. The Andari ships, larger and less flexible, struggled to follow. Every time they attempted to fire, the humans used the rocks as shields, appearing and disappearing like shadows. Back on the Luminaris, Veyer's face grew red with frustration. "These humans, they are not afraid. They evade every attack, every attempt to corner them." Adara remained calm. "That is why I warned you. They do not fear the way we fear. Their strength is in their adaptability and courage. Observe how they use the environment to their advantage." The humans were not just defending themselves. They were teaching the Andari a lesson. Each maneuver was designed to conserve energy, protect lives, and maximize impact without unnecessary aggression. They were careful, precise, and unafraid. Every time the Andari thought they had trapped a human ship, it slipped away, leaving the aliens frustrated and confused. One of the Andari ships, larger and more aggressive than the others, fired a concentrated blast toward the humans. Hart had anticipated this. She ordered the Horizon Dawn to deploy a series of decoy drones. The beam struck the decoys, which exploded while the human ship slipped past unnoticed. "See?" Hart said quietly to Raj. "We don't have to outgun them. We just have to be smarter." The Andari fleet began to realize that conventional strength alone would not defeat the humans. Their simulations had failed because humans did not act predictably. Every move was unexpected but effective. The humans were learning, adapting in real time, using intelligence and creativity in ways that the Andari had not anticipated. Adara watched closely. "This is what I feared," she said to the council through a secure channel. "If provoked, they will not flee. They will fight, and they will find ways to turn the situation to their advantage. Our superiority does not guarantee victory." The humans, meanwhile, were aware that the Andari were observing them. They sent signals to indicate peaceful intentions, using light pulses and patterns that conveyed curiosity and openness. Hart knew that showing aggression would only escalate the situation. They needed to demonstrate that humans were cautious but not weak. Then, an unexpected event occurred. A rogue asteroid previously undetected suddenly shifted its course, threatening to collide with both fleets. The humans acted immediately. Using their small ships and precise calculations, they nudged smaller asteroids away from the path, preventing disaster. The Andari, who relied on larger fleets and slower responses, could only watch. Adara's eyes widened as she observed the humans' actions. Not only do they adapt to attacks, they adapt to the environment, to unexpected events. They think, they act, they protect. This is not recklessness. This is intelligence. The Andari Council on the Luminaris was silent. Veyer's face was pale. How can such small primitive beings accomplish all this? Adara replied softly, almost to herself. Because they do not fight like other species. They are relentless. They do not retreat. They do not give up. And when cornered, they find a way to survive. We cannot predict them, because they do not rely solely on logic or technology. They rely on their spirit. The humans finally completed their survey of the moon and began preparations to depart. They had gathered the data they needed and established a temporary outpost. Hart looked at the Andari fleet still lurking in the distance. "We've made it through without firing a single aggressive shot," she said. "But they are watching. And one day, we will meet them again. When that day comes, we need to be ready." As the human fleet prepared to leave, a small Andari vessel approached cautiously. Unlike the larger ships, it carried no weapons, only sensors and communication equipment. It hovered near the human fleet, projecting a message, a warning in clear universal language. "Humans," the message said, "we are aware of your presence. Leave this sector immediately or face consequences." Hart read the message and smiled slightly. "They think fear will work," she said. "They think threats will scare us away. But that is their mistake," she sent a reply. Simple, clear, and calm. "We come in peace. We mean no harm. But we will not run. We adapt, we survive. We will return if necessary. We ask only to be observed, not attacked." The Andari fleet received the reply. For the first time, some of them hesitated. Adara studied the words carefully. "They are not intimidated. They do not submit. Our threats mean nothing to them. This is exactly what I warned the Council about." The humans departed the Shara expanse, leaving behind a small, harmless outpost and the knowledge that they had survived first contact with one of the galaxy's most feared species. The Andari, meanwhile, returned to their command ships with unease and questions they could not answer. That day, across the galaxy, one truth became clear. Humans were not like other species. They were not predictable. They were not afraid. And if attacked, they would fight back in ways no one could foresee. Adara turned to Veyer quietly. "Do you understand now?" she asked. Veyer's face was tight with frustration. "Yes," he admitted reluctantly. "They are different." "And dangerous," Adara nodded. "Not dangerous because of weapons or numbers. Dangerous because they do not know surrender. That is their power. And if we do not respect it, we will regret it." The Andari had learned their first lesson about humanity, and humanity had only just begun to show its strength. The Andari fleet had retreated, but their minds were troubled. The humans had survived first contact without a single loss, and in doing so, had exposed a truth that no Andari simulation could predict. Humanity did not act like other species. They were clever, adaptable, and above all, fearless. Commander Elena Hart's fleet, the Horizon Dawn leading the way, moved quietly through space, mapping the Shara expanse and preparing for the next stage of exploration. The humans were aware that the Andari might follow. Even though the aliens had not attacked, Hart understood that caution was still essential. The Andari were not the type to accept defeat easily. "Scans indicate movement ahead," Lieutenant Raj reported, pointing to the main screen. "It looks like the Andari are shadowing us. They're trying to anticipate our route," Hart nodded. "They're curious and persistent. Good, let them learn, but we can't let them corner us. Prepare evasive protocols. I want every ship ready to adapt." The human fleet moved through a dense asteroid field, weaving between massive rocks with precision. The Andari ships followed, but their larger size and slower reflexes made them easy to track. The humans had a plan: misdirection. They sent false sensor signals to confuse the aliens, making it appear that ships were in one location when they were actually in another. In the Andari fleet, Counselor Veyer's face grew red with frustration. "They are leading us on a chase," he shouted to Adara. "We could destroy them if we acted with strength." Adara remained calm, observing the human maneuvers. "Do you not see, Veyer? Strength alone will not succeed here. They are teaching us something. About creativity, about courage, about not yielding. Every move we make, they anticipate and adapt. Let them lead. Learn from them." The humans, aware of the pursuit, began setting small traps in the asteroid field. Debris and rocks were positioned to channel the larger Andari ships into narrow corridors, where they could maneuver more easily, but the aliens could not. The humans moved quickly, silently, avoiding direct confrontation while still demonstrating control over the environment. "Captain," Raj said, "they're slowing down. They're cautious now." "Good," Hart replied. "Caution is exactly what we want. Let them doubt themselves. That hesitation gives us the advantage." The Andari fleet was growing restless. Ships that had once felt confident were now careful, wary of every unexpected movement. The Andari were powerful, but the humans' unpredictability had exposed a weakness. The aliens relied on logic, simulations, and prior experience to predict behavior. Humanity ignored those boundaries. Then came the first real test. A small human scout ship, the Aurora Sentinel, feigned a navigation error and drifted near a dense cluster of asteroids. Veyer's warship, larger and armed with heavy weapons, moved in to intercept. The humans had anticipated this. Just as the Andari ship closed in, the Sentinel used the gravitational pull of a nearby asteroid to slingshot around it, moving behind the Andari ship and firing a targeted energy pulse at its engines. The Andari ship shuddered and slowed. Alarms blared and the crew scrambled to respond. Veyer's anger boiled. How can such a tiny ship do this? It should be impossible. Adara shook her head. It is not impossible. It is human ingenuity. Do you see now? Their power is not in their size or weapons, but in their ability to think differently. The humans continued their retreat, drawing the Andari deeper into the expanse. Each maneuver was calculated, designed to protect lives and avoid unnecessary conflict. Every time the Andari thought they had trapped a ship, it slipped away using speed, terrain, or clever misdirection. Meanwhile, on one of the human ships, Lieutenant Raj was quietly amazed. "They're persistent," he said. "They haven't given up once. And they're learning from every move we make." Hart smiled. "Exactly. That is the point. We're showing them that humans are not predictable, and that being relentless doesn't mean being reckless. Every time they adapt, we adapt faster. We are teaching without firing a single weapon unnecessarily." The Andari fleet became frustrated. Ships fired warning shots, trying to corral the humans. But the humans' shields and precise maneuvers rendered most of these efforts ineffective. One Andari ship attempted to cut off the human retreat by moving through a narrow canyon between asteroids. But the humans had anticipated this. Using a combination of sensor jamming and small decoy drones, they created the illusion of multiple ships moving in different directions. The Andari misjudged, and their ship became trapped in a narrow corridor, forced to retreat. Adara's eyes glowed faintly with a mixture of fear and admiration. They do not panic. They do not falter, and every step we take to control them, they turn into an advantage. Do you see, Veyer? This is not strength against weakness. This is mind against mind. The chase continued for days, spanning hundreds of light years. Humans crossed asteroid fields, navigated black hole proximities, and used gravitational slingshots around binary stars, all while keeping the fleet intact and unbroken. Each move demonstrated not only intelligence but an unbreakable will. Finally, the humans reached a small uninhabited planet, rich in minerals and resources. They set up a temporary base camouflaged against sensors, ready to gather supplies before continuing their exploration. They had led the Andari on a chase but had not revealed their full capabilities. Hart stood on the observation deck of the Horizon Dawn, watching the stars. "They are learning," she said quietly. "The Andari are learning that humans are not easy to predict, and we're showing them that cleverness, courage, and adaptability matter more than size or strength." Raj nodded. "Do you think they understand yet?" Hart shook her head. "Not fully, but they will. And the sooner they do, the better for everyone. If they attack prematurely, they will regret it." "Humans do not flee. They do not surrender, and when cornered, they find a way to survive. The Andari fleet hovered at the edge of the planet's system, reluctant to engage. Vior paced in frustration. "We should strike," he demanded. "We are stronger." "They are only humans." Adara's gaze was steady. "You do not understand yet, Vior. They are stronger in ways we cannot measure. Their resilience, creativity, and unity give them a power no weapon can destroy. One day you will see it. But for now, we must observe. Do not attack. Let them teach us." The humans worked efficiently, gathering resources and repairing minor damages from the chase. They had used minimal energy and avoided any unnecessary conflict. Their ability to survive and thrive in hostile environments amazed even themselves at times. But they knew it was not luck. It was preparation, teamwork, and an unwavering will to survive. Then a faint signal reached the human fleet. It was from a hidden Andari ship, broadcasting a warning. "Leave this region. Further intrusion will be met with force." Hart read the message and looked at her crew. "They still do not understand," she said. "They think threats will scare us. They are mistaken. Humans are not intimidated by size, by power, or by words. We continue, we adapt, and we survive. That is our way." The Andari fleet, meanwhile, was shaken. For the first time in centuries, they had encountered a species that did not respond predictably to intimidation. Ships that should have dominated the field had been forced to retreat repeatedly. The elders realized that humans were not merely explorers. They were survivors, warriors in their own right, and creatures whose courage inspired fear. Even in the most advanced minds, Adara recorded the encounter carefully, sending her analysis to the council. "The humans are unlike any other species we have faced. They do not rely on technology alone. They rely on will, on intelligence, and on unity. They survive where others fail. And if provoked, they will not stop. Observe and learn, counselors. This is what I warned you about. Humanity will not yield." The humans, oblivious to the growing unease in the Andari fleet, completed their preparations and set course for their next destination. They had survived the first chase, but they knew it was only the beginning. The Andari would not give up so easily. As the Horizon Dawn and its fleet disappeared into the darkness of space, the message from the Andari elders echoed across their ships. A warning, a threat, and a sign of respect all at once. Humans were no ordinary species. They were clever, unyielding, and unstoppable when cornered, and one day the galaxy would understand that lesson fully. For now, the chase had ended, but the story of humanity's courage, ingenuity, and refusal to surrender was only beginning. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see what these humans would do next. The galaxy was quiet again, but it was a fragile quiet. The Andari collective, once proud and confident in its power, had been humbled by the humans' resilience. Their fleets were intact, but their strategies had been challenged, their pride wounded. Humanity had shown that strength was more than numbers or weapons. It was courage, intelligence, and the refusal to give up. Commander Elena Hart stood on the bridge of the Horizon Dawn, watching the stars flicker past. The fleet had completed their latest mission, mapping a cluster of planets, establishing new temporary bases, and ensuring that no further miscalculations would endanger human lives. Every movement had been calculated yet flexible. Every maneuver had been cautious yet bold. Lieutenant Raj approached, his expression serious. "Commander, do you think they will try again?" Hart's eyes remained on the distant stars. "Perhaps. But they have learned too. They have seen what humans are capable of. If they attack without understanding, it will cost them dearly. And that is the lesson humanity teaches, whether they realize it or not." Meanwhile, in the Andari command ship Luminaris, Counselor Adara reviewed the final reports from the last encounters. Her eyes traced the paths of human ships across charts, their unpredictable maneuvers, the clever ways they had escaped ambushes, the resourceful strategies that had outsmarted entire fleets. Vior, the young and hot-headed counselor, paced behind her. "It is unbelievable," he muttered. "They are not just surviving, they are outsmarting us at every turn. How can a species so small, so limited, achieve such results?" Adara did not answer immediately. She watched the data, absorbing every detail. "They are not limited," she said finally. "Their strength lies not in technology, nor in numbers, nor even in aggression. It lies in their unity, their intelligence, and their courage. They do not yield. They do not panic. They do not accept defeat as permanent. That is what we must understand. The council had gathered to discuss the lessons of these encounters. Elders debated what action, if any, should be taken. Some argued for immediate retaliation, citing Andari pride and strength. Others, led by Adara, argued for caution, observation, and respect. Humans were not merely another species. They were a force that could not be measured or predicted by conventional means. One elder, Kirill, spoke in a quiet, thoughtful tone. Perhaps it is time we reconsider how we approach new species. Humans have shown us something fundamental. Raw strength is not always decisive. Ingenuity and courage matter more than we realized. Adara nodded. Yes, and if we act without understanding, we risk destruction. Humans will never submit easily. They will never give up. They fight with their minds, with their hearts, and with a spirit that cannot be broken. That is their power. Across the galaxy, humans were unaware of the full impact they had on the Andari. They continued their work, exploring, learning, and growing stronger. Yet they remained humble. Every colony, every mission, every small victory was celebrated not for glory but for survival and knowledge. They understood that the Andari were still a threat, but they also knew that their ingenuity and determination had leveled the playing field in ways few species could imagine. Hart's fleet approached a previously uncharted star system, rich in planets with potential for human colonization. Engineers and scientists prepared landing modules, while tactical teams scanned for hazards. The humans were not careless, they were cautious, resourceful, and ready for anything, but they carried confidence born from experience. Commander, Raj said, pointing at the scanners, this system could support at least 3 new colonies. It's uninhabited, abundant, and safe enough to settle temporarily. Hart smiled. Good, begin preparations. But remember, our goal is not domination. It is survival, learning, and expansion, and if the Andari follow, we must be ready. As the human fleet moved, sensors detected faint energy signatures, remnants of Andari activity, evidence that they had been watching silently. The humans were aware that the Andari might attempt observation or interference, but they were prepared. Defensive shields were active, decoy signals were ready, and small patrols moved in unpredictable patterns to confuse any observers. Back in the Andari fleet, Adara addressed the council. We have learned what we needed. Humans are not conventional. They are unpredictable, intelligent, and united. They survive where others fail, and if attacked, they will retaliate in ways we cannot anticipate. It is time to respect them, not only as a species but as a force in the galaxy. Veyer remained silent, staring at the star charts of human movements. He had begun to understand that strength was not measured by weapons alone. Humanity had survived against overwhelming odds and had done so without arrogance, relying on ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. Adara continued. Let this be a lesson. The galaxy is full of unknowns. We must approach new species with care and observation, not pride and force. And humans are the standard by which all others should be measured. Their spirit cannot be ignored. Meanwhile, on the Horizon Dawn, the humans completed their new outposts, leaving behind supplies, research stations, and communication arrays. Hart observed the stars and thought of the Andari. The aliens had underestimated humanity once, but now, even if the Andari understood their strength, it would not matter. Humans did not act out of fear or for conquest. They acted out of courage, unity, and the desire to explore and survive. A message from one of the scouts arrived. Commander, we have completed surveys of all nearby planets. Resources are abundant. No immediate threats detected. Hart nodded. Good. Begin preparations for expansion. Maintain vigilance, but do not provoke. Remember, our greatest weapon is our adaptability. Our greatest strength is our unity. As the human fleet moved on, signals began to reach distant Andari colonies. Word of humanity's resilience, ingenuity, and courage spread quickly. Across the galaxy, species that had once dismissed humans began to reconsider. They had learned from the Andari. Humans were not to be underestimated. Back in the Andari command ship, Adara recorded her final observations from the encounters. Humans do not surrender. They do not yield. They are clever, brave, and relentless. Our simulations failed to predict their strength because they rely not only on technology but on spirit. They are an extraordinary species, and one day the galaxy will remember the lesson they teach. Never underestimate humanity. Veyer, once full of pride and impatience, now looked thoughtful. They truly are remarkable. I underestimated them, but I will not forget this lesson. The humans, unaware of the full effect they had on the Andari, continued their journey across the stars. They explored new systems, established safe colonies, and gathered knowledge. Every planet they visited, every obstacle they overcame, demonstrated not only human ingenuity but human spirit. Hart stood on the observation deck one final time, watching distant stars. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "The galaxy is vast, full of wonders and challenges, but humanity will endure, adapt, and thrive. And if anyone doubts us, they will learn. Just as the Andari have learned, we do not yield. We do not surrender. We survive, we thrive, and we never stop." As the fleet disappeared into the darkness, the Andari realized a simple truth. Humans were not merely another species in the galaxy. They were a force of nature, a species that combined courage, ingenuity, and an unbreakable spirit. And any who thought to challenge them would never forget the lesson of human resilience. The stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter, as if acknowledging the courage of humanity. Across the galaxy, a new chapter was beginning, one where humans were no longer simply explorers but legends in the making. Their actions would echo through the stars for generations, a reminder that true strength comes not from size, technology, or power, but from spirit, unity, and the refusal to surrender. And humanity. Humanity would never stop reaching for the stars. The galaxy had always been quiet in the regions farthest from human space. Alien civilizations, spread across star systems and empires, looked down on humanity as a young species, barely able to hold its own on a single planet. For centuries, humans were considered insignificant, a species with a fragile planet, limited technology, and unpredictable behavior. Yet, far beyond the known borders of human exploration, something stirred. Hidden in the dark void between stars, massive objects had lain dormant for centuries, almost as if sleeping. No alien sensors had ever detected them. No signals, no energy traces, nothing. They were the remnants of a human secret so old that even many humans had forgotten its full scale. In a high orbit above Earth, the United Earth Command monitored space traffic with quiet confidence. Admiral Cale Rains, a man in his late 50s with streaks of silver in his dark hair, stood before a massive window in the command tower. His eyes, sharp and steady, followed the holographic projections of ships moving in distant sectors. Most were alien vessels scanning, probing, and patrolling. None suspected what was coming. "Admiral," a young officer said, breaking the silence, "we are detecting unusual signals in the outer boundary of the Sol system. It doesn't match anything in our records." Rains turned slowly, his face calm but intense. "Unusual signals? What kind?" "Long-range, low-frequency pulses, sir. The kind that old human sensors used for deep space communication. But these are different, stronger, older." A slow smile spread across Rains's face. "Ah, so the old fleet wakes at last." No one in the room understood his words, and Rains let it be. Some knowledge was too ancient, too dangerous to explain before the time came. The aliens believed they knew everything about humans, but they had never looked closely at the past. They never considered that humanity could have built things meant to last not decades but centuries. Far beyond the reach of current human patrols, the first of the hidden ships moved. Its massive hull reflected the faint light of distant stars, a monument of human ingenuity and patience. To any observer, it would appear as a relic, abandoned and lifeless, but inside the ship hummed with power. Artificial intelligence systems kept dormant for hundreds of years, flickered to life. The engines designed to carry the vessel across light years activated one by one. The ship began to drift, controlled and precise, as if guided by the memory of its builders. The fleet was vast. Hundreds of ships, each older than many of the galaxy's oldest empires, slowly awakened in deep space. Some were battleships, their hulls reinforced with materials unknown to current science. Others were carriers, holding long-range reconnaissance craft capable of entering hostile systems undetected. Each ship had a purpose, a mission encoded by humans long gone, and each carried something more valuable than weapons, records of humanity's history, its failures and its triumphs. Back on Earth, humans went about their lives without noticing the awakening of the fleet. Cities shone brightly in the night, powered by technology that had evolved quietly, steadily. Children played under the artificial lights of sprawling domes. Scientists argued over experiments. Traders sent ships to orbiting stations. No one suspected that humanity's hidden guardians had begun their journey. In the offices of alien observers scattered across the galaxy, the first reports came in. Sensors detected enormous objects moving in regions that were supposed to be empty. Communications between alien fleets were suddenly filled with speculation and panic. "What is it?" asked Commander Elix of the Vorton Empire, his tentacles trembling slightly over his control console. "We have never seen ships of this size. And their technology, it is ancient yet powerful. They predate even our oldest war fleets. Could it be an ancient human design?" another officer asked nervously. "Impossible," Elix growled. "Humans are weak. They cannot have created ships of this magnitude. This is a lie of sensors, a misreading." But it was no misreading. The humans had waited for centuries, observing, learning, building in secret. They had been patient because they understood the galaxy differently than the alien empires. Aliens measured strength in fleets and treaties. Humans measured it in endurance, innovation, and the ability to survive. In the outer sectors, the human ships adjusted their course. Their destination was not war, not yet. It was a demonstration, a signal to the galaxy that humanity was no longer naive, no longer silent. The first step was visibility, a slow reveal designed to shock, not destroy. The ships moved in formation, patterns that seemed simple to the alien sensors but were complex beyond comprehension. Each maneuver carried a message: we exist, we endure, we are ready. Admiral Rains watched the live feed of the fleet from the command center. "They are ready," he said softly. His voice carried both pride and caution. "Humanity has waited a long time for this moment. And now, the galaxy will remember us." In distant corners, alien fleets began to mobilize. Messages were sent to allied worlds. Reconnaissance drones were deployed. The galaxy, which had long ignored humans, now focused its attention on Earth. But even as the aliens planned, they underestimated the humans. They did not know the full scale of the fleet, the advanced technology it carried, or the minds guiding it. Inside one of the ancient warships, Captain Selena Orvath activated the bridge systems. Lights blinked on, illuminating a crew that had been in stasis for decades. Each member had trained for this moment, unaware that their ancestors had prepared them for a war or display that spanned centuries. "Status report," Selene said, her voice steady. "All systems functional, Captain," replied her first officer. "Fleet is in position. Communications ready for initial broadcast." Selene nodded. "Good, begin the signal." Let the galaxy see us. The signal was not a threat. It was a message encoded in light, a display of human design and capability. Stars reflected on the hulls of the massive ships, creating a visual spectacle that could be detected across hundreds of light years. For the first time, humanity was no longer hidden. On a distant Vortan world, the observatories recorded the sight. Scientists and military leaders alike paused, stunned. What are they?" one whispered. "They are older than our empires," another replied. "And yet, they are alive, functioning, waiting. For humanity, this was only the beginning. The galaxy had assumed humans were a minor species, easily ignored. But now, as ancient warships moved in formation and signals pulsed across space, it became clear that humans had a depth and history no one had imagined. The silent galaxy was about to awaken, and when it did, every civilization that had ever dismissed humanity would have to reconsider what they knew. Admiral Rains looked at the feed one last time before stepping away from the window. His mind was calm but alert. "Let them come," he whispered. "They will see what humans are capable of, and they will learn that patience and resilience are as powerful as any weapon." The fleet continued its journey, undisturbed and precise. Each ship carried the legacy of a species that had survived countless challenges. Each crew member carried the knowledge that the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. In the distance, stars sparkled, oblivious to the quiet power moving among them. And in the heart of that power lay humanity, hidden, patient, and ready to reveal its true strength.